The chair recognizes the gentleman from Alabama, Mr. Aderholt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I rise in support this morning of H.R. 5894, the FY 2024 Labor, Health and Human Services, Education, and Related Agencies Bill. This is my first year as chair of this very important subcommittee, and I'm proud to be able to support programs that touch the lives of literally every American in one form or fashion. Our nation remains mired in high inflation, which is only worsened by the massive infusion of government spending, both during and immediately after the COVID pandemic. I've said on numerous occasions that inflation is a tax on every single American. Moreover, it is a tax borne disproportionately by low-income Americans. We cannot continue to make our constituents pay for reckless D.C. Beltway spending. At some point, we must stop the out-of-control spending spree that we've seen over the past 2 years. This bill that's before the House this morning represents a clear first step toward returning to fiscal responsibility, while at the same time ensuring that funding for critical and high-priority functions are maintained. Yes, the bill before us today reflects the challenges in achieving deficit reduction solely through reductions in discretionary spending. To be honest, a $60 billion cut to social spending programs in this bill requires scrutiny and priority setting. Over 50 programs are proposed for reduction, and another 60 programs are eliminated. Most of those that are eliminated are unauthorized or they have expired authorizations. Title I grants to states are curbed by almost 80%, or more than $14 billion. While Title I grants do support school districts everywhere, including rural districts, in the districts back in Alabama that I represent, these funds disproportionately support big city public schools, those same public schools that fail to educate the most vulnerable children that was entrusted to them by closing their doors for almost 2 years during the pandemic. It is estimated that over $20 billion in unspent funding still remain available from those funds that were provided during the pandemic to these schools. Until this funding, over $21 billion, is drawn down and it is used responsibly, the federal government should not continue to make further investments in these failing schools. At the same time, the priorities of this bill are biodefense, programs that support rural America, targeted education programs that including those for children with special needs, and congressional oversight responsibilities. The bill also maintains support for Pell Grants and language to ensure borrowers can quickly resume payments of their student loans following the recent Supreme Court decision. Other programs for certain vulnerable populations, such as Americans with disabilities, older Americans, and foster children, are maintained at current levels. Child care block grants, which provide vouchers for families to choose child care settings of their choice, are maintained at $8 billion. In response to the executive branch overreach of this administration, this bill prohibits funding for programs focused solely on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and it eliminates funding for Planned Parenthood and other controversial grantees. It also protects religious freedom and values by stopping the administration's regulations that would require schools to allow biological boys to compete against girls in women's sports programs, and prohibiting any federal funding from going toward enforcing gender identity politics or social, hormonal, or surgical interventions to look like the opposite sex. The bill prohibits funding for controversial ideologies like critical race theory. These radical views do not belong in the public schools. Schools should be teaching our children how to think, not what to think. The bill maintains the long-standing Hyde Amendment to ensure that taxpayer funds are not used for abortion on demand, and that no one is forced to participate in an abortion or refer for for one under any federal program. The bill also makes sure that taxpayer funds are not used to circumvent state laws restricting abortion, and also ensures that federal research funds are not used on human fetal tissue obtained from an elective abortion. Furthermore, the bill before us also includes provisions preventing this administration from moving forward with job-killing regulations that relates to independent contractors, joint employer status, and federally forced wage rates for agricultural workers. The administration's regulatory agenda is stifling small businesses, which should be an incubator for innovation. To protect against man-made pandemics, the bill prohibits any funding from going to EcoHealth Alliance, the Wuhan Institute for Virology, or any lab located in Russia or in China. The bill also prohibits funding from being used for any gain-of-function research, which was being used on bat coronavirus prior to the COVID pandemic, and it prohibits enforcement of the CMS COVID vaccine mandate on healthcare workers. In closing, Mr. Chairman, of course, in addition to thanking everybody that's had a part in this, I want to say a special thanks to the chair of our committee, Chairwoman Granger, and also my fellow subcommittee members and their staff. And I certainly also want to thank the Labor, Health and Human Services and Education subcommittee staff on both the Democrat and the Republican side as we've had to work through this bill over the last several months, and just appreciate everyone's hard work and input as we have moved forward on this. I look forward to the debate today, Mr. Chairman, and I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman from Alabama reserves the